new and increasing admiration and awe. The often and most steadily we reflect upon them. The starry heavens above and the moral law within. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Under Public TV. We are proud to announce that according to the latest rankings, we are the most biased and the most black news channel in India. Jindal Wants to Know is a show where I and my panelists, who have absolutely no qualifications to be here, attempt to decipher the latest current events. I am your host, Arvind Goswami, and man, we have a special debate for you today. Ladies and gentlemen, justice is a concept that we all hold dear. It is the foundation upon which our society is built. But what exactly is justice? Is it simply the application of law, or is it something more deeper, something more fundamental? Justice is more than just punishing wrongdoers. It is also about protecting the innocent and ensuring that those who have been wronged see their grievances redressed. It is about guaranteeing equality and promising everyone to be treated fairly and with dignity. In what can only be described as a devastating loss for the human rights community, Antigone, the fierce activist, has passed away. This brave champion of social justice was a true inspiration to many and a legacy will live on. Antigone defied the laws of a city to give her brother Polynices a burial, an act which was punishable by death. Despite knowing the consequences, she stood up for what she believed was right. Our thoughts and prayers go out to her family and loved ones during this difficult time. This is what happens when we let so-called justice go unchecked. The very concept of justice is being twisted and corrupted to justify acts of unspeakable cruelty and inhumanity. People are being punished not just for breaking laws, but for simply being deemed immoral. And what's worse, it's being done with a clear conscience and a smug sense of superiority. This is not justice, this is outright tyranny. It's high time we wake up and take a hard look at what we consider to be justice. To be or not to be is not the question today, ladies and gentlemen. Today, we take four perspectives to decide which is better, a rule by empathy or one by law. Did Antigone receive the justice she deserved, or was she immoral? Now, let me introduce the panelists for today. To my right, there's Sajid Prasad Yadav. I'm surprised to see him here, given that there are no elections coming up in the near future. Next, we have Sania Khan. Next, we have Sania Khan, a philosopher who clearly has no work and is currently being affected by the recent economic depression. We have Fraud Baba. His homosexualized theories went viral on TikTok. And finally, we have Lasa Thanberg. Sania, could you please start us off?
Mind you, Arvind, I'm suffering from clinical depression and not economic. But moving on, Antigone is a lamenting sister who dies for her cause. And she is, more fundamentally, a political activist embroiled in 5th century barrier, kinship, and police politics. For people who support empathy, it is not the tragic protagonist's martyrdom, but the vulnerability that is attractive. Keening over her brother's body, Antigone is compared with a sentry to a bird in an empty nest. For Humanis, a cry marked an extra-linguistic, universal experience of human grief, but they were the signs of dehumanizing monstrous animalism. She says that she has violated Creon's edict against burning Polynices, but for no one but for her. She went against the rule of the king, who is the law of legal. The rule of law enhances the legitimacy of the legal system, and it fosters public trust in the government, as Creon claimed. It is sometimes necessary to make laws based on practical considerations, even if it conflicts with moral values. If we take examples of the National Church Act of 1980, the human rights of a person may be violated. This is morally wrong, but such restrictions are important for the greater good.
I don't like that argument, and I don't like you. Now to give a statement, straight out of a private jet. Lasa Thanberg.
If you would extend your thoughts, listen to me. Are we obligated to obey the laws of the state if we deem the state immoral? Examples of such states are the apartheid laws of South Africa and the Nazi laws of Germany. These were all legitimate laws that were passed by the relevant parliaments. But did those laws have moral authority? To answer this question, we can focus on the Nazi laws and apply the views of Hart and Fuller so as to prove why I believe laws should be based more on morality rather than straight objectivity. While the rule of law is important for maintaining stability and order in our society, it is equally important to recognize the importance of empathy in our interaction with others. Empathy allows us to understand the experiences and emotions of others and to act with compassion and kindness towards them. Antigone believes that the gods have commanded people to give the dead a proper burial, and that she has a greater loyalty to her brother than to the law of Thebes that bans her from living. The king's decree to leave Polynices unburied in natural law is a bold statement about what it means to be a citizen and what constitutes an abdication of citizenship, as it places him on the same status as other attackers. Antigone reflected the culture of ancient Greece, where each city was responsible for the burial of its citizens. Antigone believes that Polynices' betrayal of the state does not rob him of his connection to the city as defined by Creon's decree. From the perspective of empathy, Antigone's actions can be seen as noble and courageous. Her willingness to go against the law in order to bury her brother can be seen as an act of love and respect for her family and as a way to honor her brother's memory.
You go, girl. Now, to say a few words, we have Sajid Khatra Yadav.
Certain features of empathy make it a poor guide to social policy. Empathy is biased. We are more prone to feel empathy for attractive people and for those who look like us or share an ethnic and national background. Empathy is narrow. It connects us to individuals, real or imagined, but is insensitive to numerical differences and statistical data. Furthermore, Antigone believes that law must be evaluated based on its moral principles, and individuals must be allowed to act on the sense of right and wrong. But she fails to acknowledge the fact that every law in any nation is made with a certain kind of human reasoning, and such reasoning is reflected in law, or law already is in that place. For example, according to King Creon, the rule that punishes the person who is guilty of treason is morally right, and actions taken by him to punish the Polynices are in accordance with her. Thus, there are different notions of morality, and this can lead to subjective and arbitrary decision making. This is why rule of law should be followed so that chaos and anarchy is prevented. If the law is to be interpreted on the basis of facts and evidence of the case, a different decision would be made for a similar case. Who gets punished and who gets justice will be based on varying ideologies and values. As such, clarity of decision making and objectivity of the system will be threatened.
Vote for exemptions. Now, to speak his wise words, we have Sahij Baba, who is only here because my father is a big fan and because we didn't have enough money for Kangana and all.
What is law? Law is what we humans made to govern ourselves. It is a social construct. On the other hand, empathy, God's gift to us. He intends us to use this gift to govern the ways of man. Antigone, may God bless her soul, is a perfect example of selfless devotion and self-sacrifice for her family and for the will of the gods. Creon, the arrogant and proud king, how dare he put his word above the word of God himself? If we are to walk the same path as Creon and put law before empathy, then we will suffer the same fate, the same sad fate that Creon suffered. We have to hence we have to change and create a society where empathy governs our actions, where the word of God governs our actions. Since we all must aspire to be the servants of the Lord, it is important that we not take a casual or dismissive attitude towards the plight of other people. As my contemporary Mr. Khatra rightly pointed out, that as long as empathy is biased, it cannot replace the law. But the Holy Scriptures have already came up with the solution, universal empathy. In the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna, and I quote, says that, O Arjuna, he is a perfect yogi who, by comparison to his own self, sees the true equality of all beings in both their happiness and their distress. In other words, a devotee of the Lord always looks to the welfare of all living entities, and in this way, he is factually the friend of everyone. Antigone is the perfect example of the perfect yogi, as she puts her happiness and well-being of others before her own. Laws are generally based on the moral principles of society, which regulate the conduct of the individual in society. They influence each other to a great extent. Hence, laws to be effected need to represent the moral ideas of the people.
Drinking
I rest
will,
my case.
drinking will probably kill me, but your logic will kill me faster.
Where's everyone going? This is my show. This is supposed to be about me. This is supposed to be a moderated caucus, and I just learned what that means this morning. I'm going to complain to the authorities. My therapist will know. The whole nation will know. You will talk to my lawyers. I will have all of you out of this country, and that is my law.
Group 10 was very good. I really enjoyed the form, how you say. Just a minute. Let him finish his work. I really enjoyed how you used the screen and the stage. And that was a very interesting experiment, I would say, with the four. But also, the script reminded me of this very interesting piece. I don't know if you have read. It's called A Trumpist Manifesto by Vanessa Place. If you haven't read it, please read it. And that particular script is very, very close to the one that you guys have written, and I really liked it. And also how the debate was not really a debate but a series of monologue, which is what happens today on television, right? This is not really dialogue, but basically people offering their egoistical views and not really listening to one another, but simply exerting their own points. So it's a series of monologue rather than debate. So it was very interesting that way. And group 11, so although it might not come across as very out of the box, but I found quite striking how the opening section of the